All right, what's going on, Fox family? I'm super happy to be able to share this video with you today. As you know, you've all sacrificed a ton to be where you are. You've set goals, commitments, and in most cases traveled across the country to try and be successful with what you're doing. You and I both know that in order for you to be successful, you got to be productive. A few days back, I read an awesome quote from an author named Michael Hyatt. He said something like, productivity isn't simply about getting more done, rather it's about getting the right things done with a specific goal in mind. He then went on to say that the real goal of productivity should be freedom. In other words, to create for yourself the freedom to live rather than to just work more. I love that thought because it's really true. You know, we really should be working to live and not just living every day to work. So with that being said, I want to share with you some thoughts I've had lately, especially as I've had the pleasure to meet with every level of the Fox family, from Mike and Bryant all the way down to the rookie reps. I want to share with you what I see as a professional performance expert and anxiety expert are the top things killing your productivity and likely your success. I tried to simplify it because I really could talk all day. So we'll just go from here and talk about these 5 basic principles that I've created, and we'll call this video the top 5 productivity killers. All right, so number 1 is what I would call pleasure-seeking habits. So let me explain this real quickly for you. Pleasure is something that is sought through the senses, and the goal of pleasure is to quickly and efficiently change how you're feeling. However, on the other side of pleasure is what's called gratification. Gratification often gets a bad rap because it's coupled in the phrase that we all use a lot called instant gratification. However, seeking long-term gratification is actually what life is about, being anxiously engaged in a good cause. I see it defined as a feeling or sensation one gets after he or she has worked hard at something over an extended time period. And once that work has brought forth what it was intended to, and once that's been accomplished, we usually feel a sense of achievement or joy or just happiness. And I call this gratification, and it's a goal worth having. This is good, and it is what life really should be about. But who wants to do that, right? I mean, it takes patience, it takes denying yourself instant reward and staying focused on a task. But you and I both know that it's absolutely worth it. So with that being said, there are 3 main pleasure-seeking habits I see happening quite often in my therapy sessions and talks with other people. And they're killing productivity because they're being used to avoid your goals and tasks. And they're honestly creating a lot of shame inside of you because you're honestly pretty ticked off at yourself for doing them, which you know and I know will surely hurt your confidence on the doors and honestly just in your relationships. So these are, and in no particular order, pornography, video games, and social media. Don't turn the video off, just hear me out for a second. You may have your own moral code when it comes to pornography, but I'm here to tell you that viewing it over and over will absolutely hurt your confidence and your productivity. It's too strong and too mentally taxing when it comes to really achieving your goals. Video games can be a source of gratification, but only as long as you're playing them. But only as long as you're playing them for the right reasons. If you're not playing them for the right reasons, it's likely that you're just seeking pleasure. In other words, if you're only playing in order to avoid going to bed, or to avoid going on the doors, or to simply check out, you'll find that feeling of checking out will start to become super desirable for you. And honestly, sometimes addicting almost. Which it doesn't take a genius or a therapist to realize that checking out will not help you be productive. It will only help you check out, right? So social media is its own person. It really is. Your relationship with it is your own. And for you to be honest about, honestly, like again, accomplishing goals will always have a precursor of resistance. Meaning when any of us set out to accomplish something, there will always be resistance. Because there is a force, I call evil, that wants to shut you down or avoid. And again, if social media is available to you when you're feeling a lot of resistance, it's likely you'll resort to it avoid with it, and procrastinate with it, possibly becoming dependent on it. And really, you're just losing time and opportunity. Your brain hates it too. It really does hurt the brain. But we don't have time to go into that right now. But just know that your brain does not like going back and forth from focus to a lack of focus, and a focus, lack of focus. It hurts it. So those are the three that I see. There are likely more, but these three keep coming up in sessions and in conversations. And if I had to state which one was most destructive, it would be pornography, especially if you value not participating in it. If you don't care, it might not affect you as much, honestly. But if you do care about it, your conscience will likely be pressing you about it, taking you away from your full confidence and focus, and honestly having fun. And if you're struggling with pornography, then watch the videos that I've already recorded for you that are seriously worth hundreds of dollars of therapy, because they're what I do every time I'm working with someone in therapy with it. So go look at those videos if you need to. Okay, the second, or number two, productivity killer, in my opinion, is blame, resentment, and flat out just being negative. Let me tell you quickly about a law of human nature, which is this. When things get tough, our cracks of weakness start screaming. In other words, when things get really hard, we will begin convincing ourselves to quit. And it's this very dark process of making excuses to quit or bail out that creates more temptation to find the negative things or to blame, etc., than anything I've ever seen. In fact, just this last couple weeks, I've helped multiple guys with this very process. It happens in relationships, in jobs, school, missions, etc. We do it, and we often do it blindly, but we need to be more aware of it. Again, you need to be focused and positive in your thoughts and keep your faith and belief strong in what you're doing, which means if you're caught up in blaming customers or owners and coworkers, etc., for your problems, you will likely struggle to learn from your mistakes because you're too busy trying to pawn them off on them. Or another situation could be what I call triangulation, which is the act of recruiting someone to be on your side of something, which will likely create negativity in them only so you can feel justified in your own stance. The problem with this is you're not willing to actually be assertive and talk to the person you actually have a problem with, which would likely resolve it and instead make it worse or continue it on because you'd rather blame them or resent them. Don't get me wrong, nobody you work with is perfect. But if you can't have the courage to talk to them about something they've done to wrong you, then don't be a coward and pass it on to someone else. It's like they always say, everyone can be a cynic. It's easy to find fault, mistakes, to criticize and complain, but it's entirely different to be able to create solutions when negativity is there. So honestly, what kind of person do you want to be? And honestly, just don't triangulate. That ended in high school, honestly. All right, so the third productivity killer, in my opinion, is similar to number two, and it's this, negative self-talk. Seriously though, this is a huge, massive problem. The way you think is literally the perception you have. In other words, your thoughts shape more what you see than your own eyes do. Think about that. For example, if you keep saying to yourself, I shouldn't have come out here, you will keep finding reasons that that's true. Okay, you will find the emotions that come with that, and they'll mess with you over and over again. And that's just one thought, let alone hundreds during a day that can go unfiltered and unchallenged. Not to mention, the more you think that way, the more you will think that way, and so on. The brain remembers and will simply repeat. So stop. If you haven't done a mood log, then do. It'll teach you all about the 10 negative thinking traps in there and thinking distortions and what to do about them. But at a minimum, you've got to catch yourself in your negative thoughts and challenge them. The work you're doing is already hard enough, let alone you adding a bunch of crap on top of it by the way you keep perceiving your world. Okay, so change it. Stop being negative and change the way you think. All right, number 4 is simple. Okay, it's your health. Bad health's going to kill productivity. So So this means how you sleep, whether you exercise at all, and definitely what you eat. Most of you guys don't get enough sleep, which makes your brain kind of suck, honestly, which leads to negativity and moodiness, which kills self-discipline usually. So get some sleep, right? I mean, it's that simple. You need sleep. If you struggle with sleep, like falling to sleep, you can try buying what's called melatonin, which is an over-the-counter sleep aid and is the natural hormone your body releases anyway to help you sleep. You don't want to do that every night, but it will help most of the time. So diet is super important because your brain health relies on it. Okay, if your diet is unhealthy, your brain will crave what it needs more and more, which is often fed with worse and worse food, right? So creating a pretty vicious cycle. And even though you're all walking a lot every day, exercise gets blood flow to your brain, which I think will help you start your day with more confidence and focus than if you only start your day on the door. You know, like for example, if you're super tired during correlation and are barely awake, and the first accomplishment or even challenge of your day is getting to the door, that's like going from 0 to 60 pretty dang fast. And honestly, I don't think many of you can sustain that over an entire summer. All right, so the last but not least, the fifth productivity killer, in my opinion, is poor process or poor scheduling, which honestly, they usually go hand in hand. Your brain loves consistency, trust me, because the brain is built to predict the future, actually, and it predicts the future by what it did or experienced yesterday or the day before and so on, which means if the sequence and process you had was all over the map, it will have a hard time predicting, which means it will have more stress, okay? Anytime it doesn't know what to predict, it will create added stress. It'll take up neurons that could be used to focus on your goals, and honestly, you have a harder time relaxing in what you're doing. I don't know about you, but I've heard from many of the guys that when they are most relaxed, they're usually selling more. They come across the potential customers as more human, and they're able to talk more fluently and understandably with the customers. In other words, the more autopilot type habits and scheduling you can create in your brain, and you can create through your consistency in your process and schedule, the more your brain will be able to focus on the most important tasks you have, which, you know, for many of you, if not all of you, is to make the most out of every day you have out there. So I hope this was simple and understandable. I totally get it that there could probably be more things to the list, or perhaps there are things you disagree with. If that's the case, honestly, I'd be glad to hear it because I know I won't be offended by it. It'll teach me something. But I want all of you to succeed. And so I hope you can look at these things and challenge yourself about why you do what you do and why you do them. And if you know you're avoiding what you set out to do, then go and face your fear. And if you're struggling to face your fear enough, come and talk to me if you need to. I've had many sessions already this summer with people, and 1 hour has really all it's taken for a lot of guys to reset and kind of get their mind right. And if that's you, then come and talk to me. So take care and work hard.